A destructive, large wedge tornado struck the southern rural areas of Pelly, Saskatchewan, on the evening of Sunday, June 28, 2026, triggering life-threatening emergency warnings and leaving a trail of significant structural and environmental damage. On the afternoon of June 28, 2026, atmospheric conditions across eastern Saskatchewan and western Manitoba deteriorated rapidly. Meteorologists at Environment and Climate Change Canada, ECCC, had been monitoring a highly volatile weather system moving across the Canadian Prairies. A volatile mix of extreme humidity, scorching summer temperatures, and strong wind shear created a textbook recipe for severe supercell thunderstorms. By late afternoon, convective initiation began just west of Highway 8. What started as scattered convective cells quickly organized into a massive, rotating supercell thunderstorm. The storm's updraft began rapidly tilting, fueled by a high-energy environment. By 7:30 p.m., weather radars began showing a pronounced hook echo, a classic signature of a powerful tornado-producing system. Widespread alerts were automatically broadcasted across the National Emergency Alert System, lighting up smartphones, interrupting radio broadcasts, and flashing across television screens. Residents in the Rural Municipality of St. Phillips, the village of Pelly, and surrounding agricultural areas were urged to take immediate life-saving shelter. The atmospheric instability culminated around 8:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, when a monstrous, low-hanging wall cloud descended toward the earth just south of Pelly. Veteran storm chasers tracking the cell confirmed a touchdown. Due to its immense width, which appeared wider than it was tall, the vortex was officially classified as a wedge tornado. A wedge tornado is notorious for being exceptionally deceptive. To an untrained observer, it does not look like a traditional narrow funnel cloud. Instead, it looks like a solid block of dark, swirling clouds extending from the heavens directly onto the landscape, heavily wrapped in thick sheets of torrential rain and blinding hail. Moving along a steady east-northeastern trajectory, the core of the tornado crossed directly over critical rural infrastructure. The sheer force of the cyclonic winds, estimated preliminary to be well within high-end intensity metrics, obliterated everything in its direct path. Over 24 heavy-duty wooden utility poles and metallic transmission lines along the Highway 8 corridor were snapped like toothpicks. Power lines fell across roadways, instantly sparking minor brush fires and completely cutting off electrical power to hundreds of rural households. Acres of old-growth shelter belts and dense rows of trees were completely decimated. Thick tree trunks were shattered, splintered, or entirely uprooted from the earth, leaving massive craters in the soil. Multiple farmsteads suffered catastrophic losses. Metal storage barns were twisted out of shape. Grain bins were thrown hundreds of meters into neighboring fields. And residential homes experienced varying degrees of severe structural failure, including entirely detached roofs and collapsed exterior walls. As the supercell continued its path toward the Manitoba border, leaving a dark, debris-strewn wake, local emergency infrastructure instantly sprang into action. The Pelly Volunteer Fire Department, alongside Emergency Medical Services, EMS, from nearby Kamsack and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, initiated emergency protocols. First responders faced extraordinary logistical hurdles during the initial hours of the night. Highway 8 was completely impassable due to fallen power lines, massive uprooted trees, and scattered building debris. Equipped with heavy machinery, chainsaws, and floodlights, local municipal workers and farmers worked hand-in-hand with emergency crews to cut open pathways through the debris. Search and rescue teams went door-to-door through the rural grid roads to account for every single resident. Local authorities delivered a piece of profoundly welcome news during a morning press briefing. There are currently 0 reported fatalities or critical injuries. The lack of casualties is heavily credited to the highly accurate early warnings issued by ECCC and the proactive habits of local prairie residents, who immediately sought refuge in basements, storm cellars, or reinforced central rooms of their homes. Utility providers like SaskPower immediately dispatched specialized emergency crews to assess the damage to the regional power grid. The utility company stated that restoring power to the rural grid around Pelly and St. Phillips would be a multi-day operation. The entire rows of distribution poles were snapped. Technicians must clear the mangled wires, dig new holes, install replacement poles, and restring high-voltage lines. Residents have been advised to prepare for prolonged outages lasting anywhere from 48 to 72 hours. Furthermore, rural water distribution networks are being monitored closely. While the village of Pelly's primary water treatment facility remains intact, auxiliary power generators have been deployed to ensure water pressure is maintained and to prevent any potential boil water advisories from taking effect. Severe thunderstorms swept across southern Saskatchewan on Saturday, with heavy rain that flooded parts of Regina and reached nearly 100 millimeters in the community of Mankota. Environment Canada says Regina received 52 millimeters of rain from thunderstorms, more than 50 of it falling in a single hour. That led to flooding in parts of the city. It was just a slow-moving system that resulted in heavy rainfall. We're seeing a little bit more of that this year, and that's just the way it kind of has worked out. Ziolkowski, a meteorologist with Environment Canada, said. So it's not like it's uncommon, but it's just, I'd say, like rainfall has been elevated this year. Mankota, near Grasslands National Park, was hit even harder, with 99.6 millimeters recorded. About 75 millimeters came down in roughly an hour, Ziolkowski said. The storm near Mankota also produced a wind gust of 78 kilometers per hour. Pea-sized hail was reported near Big Beaver. Environment Canada had warned that slow-moving storms in the province's south could produce very heavy rain, sometimes 50 millimeters in an hour, in narrow bands. The storms that moved through Regina on Saturday afternoon produced one of those bands. Ziolkowski says the slow movement is key. When large plumes of moisture move in from the central United States and storms develop without strong upper-level winds to push them along, the storms linger over one area and the rain piles up. We always expect thunderstorms to occur throughout the summer, but the nature of the style of thunderstorms changes on a day-to-day basis. In this situation, it was just a little moving system that resulted in heavy rainfall, he said. Meanwhile, 2 communities in Sherwood Park are flooded as rain continues to pour in central Alberta. A statement from Strathcona County said Jubilee Landing and Lakeland Village are privately owned mobile home communities that operate their own water, wastewater, and stormwater systems. Strathcona County has seen significant overland drainage due to the repeated and significant precipitation events over the last 4 weeks, said Jason Casault, the county's director of utilities, in a statement Sunday afternoon. Utility worker Aidan Worth said the stormwater pond was overflowing. Unfortunately, it's just an inadequately sized pond and too low for the houses that back onto it on the south side. But we are doing our part, making sure we're monitoring it every single day, Worth told CTV News Edmonton. Luckily, because there are no basements, the damage is very, very minimal. Melissa McLeod said this is the 3rd time this month that residents have seen this amount of flooding. I've tried to have as much fun with it as possible. Me and my son have been hunting for worms and splashing around, said the Jubilee Landing resident. A neighbor yesterday was paddleboarding in the water, but a level of anxiety still lingers. I get a little worried that we might get flooded out, said Annette Eberts. The second storm we had, I was worried we were going to lose power because it was creeping up. So far this month, the Edmonton area has seen record-breaking rainfall with several communities in central Alberta impacted by overland flooding.
Than it does from the winds. The winds here were traveling from the east. You see how the branches are laying down here. I'm not sure. Maybe it came from that tree, so it may still just be straight line here. Further back, though, about 2 miles to the south of here where we hit the tornado, south of town. But here it's more just trees. This one's just huge. Let's walk over here and see his roots for a second, because it's just worth seeing what ripped out here on this tree.